You're harvesting the seeds.
Ooh.
Hi, I'm Lou, and this is Lily Rowe. Happy Lughnasadh! The last of the wild flowers are flowering. Some have turned to seed already. The fields are turning golden with big fat haystacks being rolled in them. And it's the first of the harvest festivals. So to celebrate the season, we thought we'd share a story with you. This one is from Norse legend. So grab a cuppa and get comfy, ready for story time. Gather good and close, my friends, gather around the fire, for who knows how this tale will end, who knows what will transpire. Long, long ago, there lived the god Thor. I'm sure you've heard of him, perhaps. He was a bit of a feisty fella, always getting full of passion and causing storms and throwing about thunder. And he lived in Asgard, up in the sky, along with all the gods and goddesses. Now, although he was a bit of a feisty one, he did have one soft spot, and that was for his beautiful wife, Sif. Sif was very, very proud of one particular feature. She had beautiful, long, flowing, golden hair, just like a field of wheat shining in the sunlight, gently swaying in the breeze. Thor was also very proud of Sif's hair and often boasted about it to anyone who would listen when he was down the tavern swilling beer. Now, we all know what bad hair days are like. And so Sif was very meticulous, so she didn't have a bad hair day. She was always combing her long locks with a beautiful jewelled comb, and she would regularly wash her hair in babbling brooks and beautiful clear waters. So one day she was doing this. She was down by the riverside washing her hair, and she laid it out to dry on some big flat rocks in the sunshine. Now, because her hair was so thick, it took an awfully long time for it to dry. And so it was a warm sunny day and she fell asleep while she was waiting for it to dry. She was in a deep, deep sleep, so she didn't notice that Loki, the mischief maker, was sneaking up on her with a big pair of shears. He grinned to himself, for he delighted any opportunity to make mischief in the house of Thor. And so he took his shears and snip, 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 snip. Every one of Sif's golden locks fell from her head and dropped into the stream and flowed away on the waters. All but one, the last one, which Loki kept with glee, a little souvenir of his mischief making. Little souvenir of his mischief. I wasn't expecting the bracken to be quite so high down this footpath, Bubs. Eventually, Sif woke up. She felt cold, which was weird because the sun was still out. We'll try not to fall over. She felt cold, which was weird because the sun was still out, and she reached her hand up to her head, and to her horror, she felt stubble and skin. What had happened to her beautiful golden locks? Where had they gone? Her finest attribute. She burst into tears, sobbing. She ran away back home and locked herself in her house, crying. She cried and cried and cried and cried for hours. She sobbed, so much so that the rain fell hard down on the land of men in Midgard. Rain, more than ever they'd seen before, fell upon their crops down below. That evening, Thor returned home expecting to see his beautiful wife greet him, but she was not there. "Sif, Sif," he called, but there was no answer. He scratched his head. Perhaps she'd gone visiting some of the other gods and goddesses. So he headed out into the night to go and find her. He called on all of the god and goddesses in Asgard, but she was round none of their houses. She wasn't there. And so very sadly, he went back home. "Sif, Sif, I wish I knew where you were." He kind of cried out into the darkness. Then a very quiet whisper in sobs he heard coming from the shadows. "My love." And he could just faintly see the silhouette of his wife hiding in the shadows. He was like, "Come out, my love. What is ever wrong?" And she stepped out, and she had covered herself in a veil. Whatever is wrong, my love? "I cannot let you see me," cried Sif. "Whatever do you mean?" "I can't let you see me like this. I must go away from Asgard. I must go and live somewhere else, far away from the gaze of you and all the other gods and goddesses." "Come, come," Thor said. "It cannot be as bad as that, my love. Let me see you." And so she, with a shaking hand, pulled down her veil so he could see. Now, Thor looked upon her, and although her bald head was still very, very beautiful, and he still loved her very, very much, the joyful sparkle had gone from her eyes, for she was so deeply, deeply sad and troubled. Thor felt his anger and passion bubble up inside of him. "Tell me who has done this to you, my love." "I do not know, I was sleeping." "Why, there is only one person in Asgard who is capable of such mischief. Loki." He growled out into the night. "I will kill him, I will make him pay." And he stormed off into the night. Loki, meanwhile, was patting himself on the back for such a great mischievous deed well done. And he had only got as far as the groves of woodland just on the outskirts of the village. Thor wasted no time and found him almost immediately, for Loki was not so good at hiding. He seized him by the neck and started to squeeze. "I will kill you, Loki. I will punish you greatly for what you have done to Sif." Loki scrabbled at him, but he was no match for Thor, and he pleaded with him. Please, Thor, I didn't mean it. It was a joke. It was a joke. It was a joke. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. You know what your father Odin will say. You're not allowed to kill other gods. Don't. I'll make it right. I'll make it right." With this, Thor was still very angry, but he did think a moment. That's true what Loki said. Odin had forbade any other gods to kill each other, and he didn't want to get into trouble and anger his father. So Loki had a point, so he set him down. And it was like, "Okay, Loki, I will let you live unless you don't make it right. And then I'm coming back at you full force." I will, I'll make it right, said Loki. "I know what to do, I'll make it right." And with that, Loki was off like a shot. Now, Loki, because he wasn't very popular in Asgard, he did have lots of friends outside of Asgard. And he was thinking, gosh, who can help me? I'm in a bit of a pickle here. I've got to sort this out. Should I go and see the giants? I'm not sure they can help me. They're not so bright. What about the humans in Midgard? Shall I go down there? No, there are none clever down there. I know. I will go deep, deep, deep into the earth, for that's where the dwarves live. And so that's what he did. He went down, 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 deep into the earth. Now, most people can't go there, for it is terribly hot and fiery and molten down under the earth. But Loki, as well as being the god of mischief, is also the god of fire. So it didn't flummox him at all. He went down, deep, deep, deep down, until he found the dwarves. Now, the dwarves lived there, and all of them were master craftsmen. They spent their entire lives mastering how to make magical and precious things out of the rocks and minerals and precious stones that they harvested from the earth. Now, Loki knew that the dwarves were very proud of their accomplishments. They were very proud of their skill and believed that no other could match it. So he was very good at all this, was Loki. He had the gift of the gab, and he went down to the dwarves and spoke with them and flattered them and asked them to show their great accomplishments, their great items that they had made. One produced this amazing spear that was so well balanced that it didn't matter the skill of the person who threw it, it would always hit its target. Another produced this amazing ship that would sail wherever you wanted it to sail, but also would fold up neatly so it would fit inside a compass. Very handy if you're ever in need of a boat. He marvelled at these and said that he'd never seen the like of such craftsmanship, and he wondered whether they would be up for a new challenge to craft something so beautiful and amazing that no one else in the world could do it. Now, the dwarves, although they were highly skilled smiths, they weren't necessarily so bright when it came to social airs and graces. And so they kind of were intrigued by this challenge. And they asked what Loki would do for them in return. Why, I hold Thor's greatest treasure, and I will give it to you if you do me this task. Now, the dwarves have heard of Thor, of course. They knew how mighty he was. They even sometimes hear his thunder rumbling through the caves of their earth on the land above. And so they knew how powerful he was. They thought, wow, Thor must have pretty cool treasure. So they agreed, that sounds like a fair deal. Fair deal, we will go with that. We're about to have to walk through a patch of nettles. Not sure that we can get through that with Bubba. We're going through the wheat. Okay, hopefully I'm not about to get lost in the field. If I do, this was my last entry. Bubba's excited by this. Hang on. Here we go. We made it! Okay, what were we saying? We were saying that the dwarves had accepted the challenge. They'd accepted the challenge. Okay, said Loki. In which case, what I challenge you to do is to take your finest bar of gold and to fashion it into the thinnest, softest, finest threads so that you can make a cap with flowing golden locks, just like a field of golden wheat. Well, the dwarves living underground had never seen a field of golden wheat, but they kind of understood his meaning, and they were like, ha, we can do that. And so off to work they went. They got their bars of finest gold. They took their hammer and their anvil and their tongs, and they beat it out until there were fine, fine threads. And then they span it like a spider with some crazy golden silk. And they produced this amazing, beautiful cap with golden threads, and they presented it to Loki, and Loki smiled, for he was very, very pleased with it. It was beautiful. In fact, it rivaled Sif's original hair. It was so beautiful. And he thought, yes, this will do. And the dwarf said, okay, so you hold up your end of the bargain then. You owe us Thor's greatest treasure. And so Loki smiled, and he reached out into his pocket and he produced that final lock of Sif's original hair, and he placed it on the anvil to them and said, here, a deal's a deal. He gave them the hair. He took the golden cap and returned to Asgard, where Thor and Sif was waiting for him, and all the other gods and goddesses were assembled in Odin's longhouse, tapping their feet, waiting, looking at their watches. And in came Loki with this gift wrapped beautifully, and he approached them. Well, said Odin, I've heard all about what you've done, Loki. Have you got something to make it right? And Loki grinned with a little glint in his eye and said, oh yes, Lord Odin, oh yes, I think you will be very pleased. Sif, remove your veil. Sif sheepishly did, her head still bald but still beautiful, her eyes still sad and sobbing. And with that, Loki revealed the gift, this beautiful golden cap, yes, this beautiful golden cap, and he took it and he placed it upon her head, and of course it fitted her brilliantly, and the locks flowed down her back once more, and she smiled, and the glint returned to her eye, and she span round joyously. So pleased with these beautiful locks, almost as good as the originals, possibly even better than the originals, and she was very happy. And that night there was much rejoicing in Asgard, much beer was drunk in tankards, and all was well for the world. Do you have a favourite way of celebrating the season? Let me know in the comment section below. If you've enjoyed this video, do give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel so you can join us again in the woods next time. And thanks for watching. Sif has hair like golden fields. At Lughnasadh the grain does yield. Celebrating the season, the gods does please. So remember this the next time you head to the trees. Yeah.